when someone says, oh, we need to recruit a treasury manager or something in Dubai, one of the big things they say, they need to have relationships with the banks. And then other companies like, no, we don't need it because we're a global company. So it's just understanding the different aspects of a role. So we get it that there's the hedging, all that side of it. But what else is the role? Like, do you need to be commercial? Do you need to say, I get on with this bank? So if I come to your company, I've already got this relationship which I can bring across. Like, is there that aspect to it?
The way we can approach this is first define the different departments within Treasury. Then it will help you identify, okay, the role I need based on what job you need to get done. So in Treasury, and what I'm going to explain now is the general concept. It might be different from one company to another, because I don't want someone telling me, oh, this is not the way we have it in our company. I understand this is what I have learned. This is my own opinion. So in Treasury, there are main two functions. The back office, or we can call it operations, or we can call it the cash management team.
Hey there, listeners. Can you believe it? We're already on season 4 of the Alchemy Uncensored podcast. Before we dive into today's episode, I've got one quick favor to ask. I'm sure anyone that listens to podcasts will know what I'm about to ask. But if you've been loving the journey so far, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode, especially as we keep leveling up this season. And while you're at it, why not leave us a review? Your feedback has been a huge part of what's gotten us to season 4, and it helps us keep bringing you the content you love. And of course, one more thing. If you're feeling extra generous, share this episode with a friend who'd love to hear it. Let's grow this amazing community together. And all right, that's it for now. So let's get straight into the show. Thank you.
Welcome back to the Alchemy Uncensored podcast. It's incredible that we're on our 4th season, and we're excited to continue bringing you honest conversations, fresh perspectives, and valuable insights from leaders across the UAE's finance, tax, and treasury sector. I'm Conor McHugh, founder of Alchemy Search. And before we dive into today's conversation, we're excited to announce our partnership with Alan, the Middle East's leading corporate and expense management platform. Alan helps companies eliminate petty cash, reimbursements, and manual reconciliations by automating expense tracking, approvals, and accounting. So finance teams get more control and visibility without the manual work. Today's episode features Mohamed Kortam. Kortam is a Middle East and Africa regional treasurer with over a decade of experiences across the region, driving corporate finance, liquidity, and risk management strategies for diverse industries. Alongside his corporate role, he is the founder of MIA Treasurers and host of its podcasts, building a vibrant community, connecting and empowering treasurers across the region. So, Kortam, how are you?
I'm really happy to be here. I'm doing great. I think it's a great opportunity for me to test how it feels from the other side. So last time I had you, we were on the podcast and you told me, oh, it's way more pressuring to be the guest than the host. So I think, it's a good test for me now.
The tables have turned. Yeah, you're going to be leading the conversation today. But no, look, obviously on the back, it was great to be on your Treasury podcast. And, thank you very much for having me. And look, it's nice to return the favor and put you under the spotlight.
Love it. And as I mentioned to you, it's the episode is doing great. So I encourage anyone who follows Conor and Alchemy Search to check the episode. Yeah. I believe it's one of the best episodes.
Perfect. And I guess a good way to start off this conversation is, myself and Kortam, we've built our relationship actually back and forth on LinkedIn. Then I think you initially invited me to speak at an event. So we met at the event, built the relationship, then obviously with the podcast. So it just goes to show, for people, there is so many ways, avenues to build relationships in this region. Egyptian man, Irish man, here we are. So yeah, look, it's I'm looking forward to the conversation. I actually think this is the first treasury professional we've had in the podcast. It's a slightly new conversation. And I know treasury this year, or probably the last 6 months, has blown up altogether in the region. The key things we want to talk about, obviously, get an introduction to yourself, your career, your background, everything you've been doing. But then we also want to really dig into, for finance people, we've a lot of job seekers that are listening to the podcast. What is treasury? Even mid to senior people, they mightn't actually fully understand the treasury function because it is still quite niche. It is growing.
And one thing I want to highlight, which you mentioned, is the networking and the idea of being out there and being able to connect with people. And this is one of the skills, the tools that I've used to get connected to people like you and other people. So this is something that everyone should be focusing on now. And I think it's very, very important, regardless of what is your role within finance, treasury, whatever. Networking is very, very important.
Digging into that then. What have you done in the last, obviously you've got a good energy about you, but when was the decision you made to put yourself out there quite a lot? You know, with the podcasts, you know, with the events, you know, what was the light bulb moment?
Yeah, it's over a decade. It's almost 15 years of experience. And it hasn't always been Treasury. I had different finance experiences from accounting and payables, receivables, in credit, then tax, then budgeting and forecasting, commercial, FP&A. And then by 2018, I had some flavor of Treasury. And then by 2018, I fell in love with Treasury. And I thought, okay, this is what I want to continue doing. Eventually, 2019, it became officially, it became my core experience, core career. And from 2019 till now, I've only been doing Treasury. I would say 2 years back, when I started to reach more senior positions, I felt, okay, it becomes, and you know that because you're a recruiter and you find it's harder to find vacancies for more senior people. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's the case.
It's pyramid.
Yes, it's easier to find a role for a junior guy or to find someone for a junior position because the pool of candidates is a lot and the requirements is not that high. But if you're more senior, it gets more tricky. And it became harder and harder for me to find another role and to grow. So I thought, okay, maybe I need to think differently. It's not just technicalities. So everyone in my circle knew my technicalities, knew how strong I am in cash flow forecasting, in modeling, all of this stuff, anything around Treasury and plus some finance. So I thought I need to think beyond that. What am I missing? By my personality as introvert.
Disagree, but anyway, yeah.
I have been an introvert my whole life. So I needed to overcome that. But I couldn't just change from an introvert to an extrovert. So I thought, okay, let me try to embrace my introversion and try to channel my energy. So what I used to do, first when I started to attend conferences, I didn't used to attend conferences before. I started to attend conferences, but I started doing it the wrong way. As an introvert, when you go to a conference, it's a lot of pressure for you because you're not used to social gathering, a lot of people, and you get nervous. So I was doing it wrong. And then I learned how to channel my energy. I noticed that there are periods in time where I am really focused, and there are periods of time where gathering a lot of people would get me really nervous. So I thought, okay, if let's say, for example, I'm more focused and more comfortable from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. So this is when I go to the event. I meet specific people who I really want to connect with, and I leave. I don't spend the whole day. These are some techniques that I started to use to be able to cope with the social anxiety that I have. I'm being very transparent. I don't care about judgment. But if I'm able to help someone who's an introvert out there with using these techniques.
The thing is, with most finance, tax in particular, it is full of introverted people. You know, as I said, I've only got to know you properly in the last 3 to 6 months. And, you know, I think you've obviously big energy about you, but you put yourself out there. You've got a podcast going, you've got a job, you're in a big treasury society as well, effectively. So, you know, for me, I wouldn't see you as that. You've obviously come along the way.
People would see it as faking it till you make it, but it's not faking it because at the end of the day, it's you.
Yeah.
So it's you who's going to the events. It's you who's posting on LinkedIn. It's not someone else sitting behind the keyboard and typing things. It's you. It's just a different type of you. You are getting out of your comfort zone and you're doing something different. You have taken a decision to change and acquire a new skill and think in a different way and get connected to different people that you didn't have the ability to connect with before or didn't have the channels to connect with before. So you're building those channels. And then eventually this becomes you. So it's not fake it till you make it. It's just you are building on new skills and new connections.
So as you said, you've pretty broad experience in your younger years. And then you made the decision 2019, 6-7 years ago, that you're going to focus on being a treasurer.
2018, yeah.
2018. Why did you want to do that? Like, talk us through the role. Let's just pretend I don't have a clue, which for the most part I don't, but explain treasury. Why should someone want to be a treasurer?
There are 2 questions here in one. Why was it appealing to me and why someone be a treasurer? It would be different from one person to another, why they choose to be a treasurer.
But you love money anyway, you love holding cash.
That's a staple for everyone. Everyone who loves money should definitely. So it will be different from one person to another. For me, I was drawn into technicalities around it. And I was fortunate enough to choose to be a treasurer. Some people are just thrown into it. So you just graduated and the first job that you get was a treasury analyst and a treasurer. Yeah. Then you either love it or not, like any other job. But for me, I was fortunate to choose no. I want to be a treasurer. I'm going to be a treasurer. Why did I choose that? Because I love the technicalities around it. So everything around I don't want to throw out complex words, because what I want to do when I'm explaining Treasury, I want to make it in simple words for everyone to understand. But just for the sake of explaining why I loved it, is things like derivatives and FX forwards and all of this stuff and how to do hedging. These were really, really appealing topics for me that led me to learn more about Treasury. And then I even more and more fell in love with it. And when I compared it to typical finance jobs, more junior ones, I'm not speaking CFO job, like accounting and FP&A, I felt it's less routine than the FP&A and accounting jobs. That's why it even became more and more appealing to me. Now, this is answering why I was drawn into Treasury. Now, speaking about Treasury in general, why you should consider Treasury as a job and as a colleague that you have on board in the team. So some companies, for example, they don't even have a treasurer.
Yeah.
They don't have a treasury manager. They might have a treasury accountant who's not, with all due respect, who is not a treasurer. He's just an accountant who does bank reconciliations. Let's step back and explain Treasury in simple words. Treasury is a very, very, very old profession. It's not a new thing. It has become mainstream recently, and we will explain later why. However, it's a very, very old. In 1700 BC, there was an ancient Egyptian king who woke up one day and he had a dream of 7 cows, healthy cows, that have been eaten by 7 lean cows, and then 7 healthy crops that was swallowed by 7 unhealthy crops. So he calls his servant and he tells him about the dream, and he asked him to get someone who would interpret this dream. So he told him, actually, I knew I was in prison, and there is a prisoner there who can interpret dreams. His name is Yusuf. It's obviously the story of our prophet Joseph. So he told him, bring him to me. So Joseph meets with the king. He tells him the story, the dream that he had. And Joseph was able to interpret the dream that the king gave him. And he said, what you're going to have is you're going to have 7 years of flourishment. You'll have crops, you'll have basically good years, and then following 7 years of really bad time. So he was able to use the dream as a forecast. And then the king wanted Joseph to work with him. Now, what did Joseph say? He said the job that he requested. He said, and this is verbatim, he said, keep me on the land's treasury. He didn't say keep me on the land's stock. He didn't say keep me on the land's food. He didn't say keep me on the land's money. He said treasury. اجعلني على خزائن الأرض. In the Quran, it says خزائن. The definition is treasury. Joseph or Yusuf was the first documented treasurer in history. So treasury is a very, very old profession. Basically what he did, he used the dream as a forecast. And he built a forecast of 7 years. Okay, this is what we need to spend, or this is what we can afford to spend, and this is what we need to save for us to be able to face the hardship in the following 7 years. This is basically treasury. Now, if we even take it a step further or a step simpler in our day-to-day life, I would argue that each and every one of us is a treasurer. Not necessarily that each and every one is an accountant. So for you, Conor, for example, you don't need to be an accountant to manage your own personal financing. But I would argue 100% that you are a treasurer in managing your personal financing. Let's take an example. You earn a specific amount of money every month. Let's say 10K. Now, you have a set of obligations that you need to spend. Car installment, rent.
Wife. Dude, she zaps me out altogether. Anyway, go on.
No, I just felt the pain. I just felt the pain.
Sorry.
We're kidding. We love our wives. And
Yeah.
It's the most.
It's my tax. Sorry. You actually had a good story there.
But we spend it with love. We love what we do it.
El Mohem.
So we have different expenditures. So let's say you earn 10K, but then you have to spend on schools. You have to spend on your wife's bags and shoes. You have to spend on. You have to spend
groceries,
on,
all that
groceries,
stuff.
all the stuff. So there is an inflow that's coming, which is the 10K, and then the outflow for the bags and school.
Goes to 15K.
So let's say it made up 15K.
Yeah.
Then you need to find a way. Okay, how am I going to manage the extra 5K? And even if you're not writing this down, I'm sure that you're doing this math in your mind at least once a month. I'm sure 100%. Each and everyone does this once a month, at least. Okay, there's coming in 10K, but there's going out 15K. How am I going to manage this 5K? Am I going to borrow from my mother the 5K? Or am I going to use the credit card? Or am I going to take a loan? Okay, if I'm going to take from my mother, then the good thing is she is not going to charge me any interest. And she'll probably be easy on me and she might not ask for the money for the coming year. However, I might put pressure on my mom and she might not be able to give me the full 5K. She might be able to give me only 2K. Okay, if I use the credit card, then I need to pay in the following month. Otherwise, there is going to be like 40% interest. And if I take a loan, then there might be a collateral or whatever. So you think about that. This is treasury. You're managing the inflow. You see the inflow, you see the outflow, and then you think, how am I going to finance the difference? Right? This is treasury, 100%. So this is explaining treasury in simple words.
It's really just getting so popular. Obviously, in recruitment, we were expecting tax, for example, to be really big last year. It was big enough, but then treasury just came out of nowhere. But yeah, I think it's a really interesting space, and especially for people who are currently working in finance. You were working, as you said, in finance, budgeting, everything. Then you sort of focused on treasury. So I guess what I want to dig into now is like how different it is from other finance roles. You've talked about hedging for derivatives, but just talking through, let's just say I'm a senior accountant now and I see a treasury option, a treasury role open up within the company I'm working with. What are the key differences day to day, month to month in a treasury role?
Okay, so if you are someone who's working in finance and you want to shift to treasury, that's very important to understand what's the difference between the finance role and the treasury role. If you're a CFO and you're looking to hire someone in treasury, or maybe you see there are some pitfalls or some shortfalls in your department and you don't know where it's coming from, maybe you need a treasurer. So you won't know that until you understand what's the difference between a finance guy and a treasury guy. And when we speak finance guys, there are multiple finance roles. So there is accounting and there is FP&A and there is branches under the accounting. There is payables, receivables, etc. But let's take it step by step. If you ask anyone who is in finance and who understands treasury and finance, somehow understands, what's the difference between finance and treasury? That's most probably what they're going to say is finance focus on historical data and treasury focus on the future data. And somehow this is half right, half not so correct. The reason is, in finance, you have the accounting team, which does focus on history. So what accounting does is reporting, basically reporting. So they check what happened and they report it in their books. So they focus on the history. Treasury, yes, do focus on the future, but the FP&A as well, they focus on the future. Correct. So you have another department in the finance that also focuses.
That's forward-looking, yeah.
That's forward-looking as well. So not all of finance look at history. It's just the accounting part when it comes to reporting and auditing and all of this stuff. But the FP&A also looks at the future. But then what's the difference between FP&A guy and the treasury guy if they are both forward-looking? Taking the example that we were discussing, your inflows and outflows. What does the FP&A does? They build budgets. So they have an expectation of the performance of the company next year. Okay, this expectations might be coming from the sales team, might be coming from the market, or might be coming from above, from a top management. This is what we're going to do. You have to figure it out, which is most of the time. And then they build the budget. Okay, then we need to have this amount of revenue. That means we will need to have this cost. We will probably need to hire new people, which is going to have cost. And we're going to have this net profit for the coming year. This is our budget, which is great. However, they didn't answer one important question. How are you going to achieve that? Oh, they will say, because we're going to open in a new market. How? We are going to open an office. Yes, how? How are you going to finance it? Where is the money coming from? Right? Because if you're going to increase revenue because you're going to have a new office in a new region, that entails that you're going to open the office and hire people. Now, if you're going to hire people and open an office, do you have the cash for that? Yes, I have the cash. Okay, this cash, if it's going to be spent on the office and it's going to be spent on the people, then that means you're going to save somewhere else. How critical is this somewhere else? Let's say you don't have the cash. You're going to borrow. So where are you going to borrow from? Are you going to borrow from a bank? At what rate? It's going to cost you some interest. Did you put the interest cost in your budget? Okay, maybe you're going to do a capital injection, right? So you're going to ask the owners that, you know what, for us to open this new office, to increase the revenue, you need to put in some money to the business. Now, did you take into consideration the impact of the dividends payment? Dividends meaning the money that you regularly pay to the shareholders. If you take this into consideration, did you take into consideration the impact of the tax, the withholding tax from the dividends? So all of these aspects, the FP&A guy doesn't think about it. If you have a really good CFO, he might think about these. If you have a normal CFO guy, he will find about these things by chance when he starts implementing the budget. And then he would say, oh, how come we didn't think about this stuff?
Enter the Treasury man.
Enter the Treasury man. To try and solidify this with example, in 1812, Napoleon had 600,000 men when he entered Russia. 600,000. So he had his budget. He had a huge army there. However, what he didn't plan for is the winter, the terrain. The conditions there were crazy. And the Russians did one thing that was very popular and still very popular in wars, was they destroyed all the supplies and crops in the area where the war was taking place. So they were out of supplies. So even though they had the budget, they had 600,000 men. They came back with 100,000. They lost all of their budget. Why? Because they didn't have supply coming in. It's not about how strong your budget is. It's how sustainable it can be.
There's a lot going on in Treasury people's heads. They're great examples, no? It's good.
So if he had a plan, okay, I'm going to run out of supplies, I'm going to run out of crops, so I need to have a plan on how can I sustain this army? How can I sustain my men? He might have won the war.
Talk me through then, because in my head, in recruitment, in Treasury, there's three positions, three job titles. Treasury analyst, Treasury manager, head of Treasury. There is more, but what we see in the market is like a Treasury manager is such a wide role. You know, we'll speak to some guys who are earning 20 something, and then there'll be another guy you speak to, he's like 55, 60. So like, there doesn't seem the same, like different job titles. But what I want to ask you is, you know, what are the difference? Someone who's an analyst, what are they doing, you know, compared to a manager and a head of Treasury? Because for me, when someone says, oh, we need to recruit a Treasury manager or something in Dubai, one of the big things they say, they need to have relationships with the banks. And then other companies like, no, we don't need it because we're a global company. So it's just understanding the different aspects of a role. So we get it that there's the hedging, all that side of it. But what else is the role? Like, do you need to be commercial? Do you need to say, I get on with this bank? So if I come to your company, I've already got this relationship which I can bring across. Like, is there that aspect to it?
The way we can approach this is first define the different departments within Treasury. Then it will help you identify, okay, what role I need based on what job you need to get done. So in Treasury, and what I'm going to explain now is the general concept. It might be different from one company to another, because I don't want someone telling me, oh, this is not the way we have it in our company. I understand. This is what I have learned. This is my own opinion. So in Treasury, there are main two functions. The back office, or we can call it operations, or we can call it the cash management team. So back office. And then the front office. And from the name, the front office is the ones that are out there meeting with the banks, negotiating term sheets, managing your risk, all of this stuff. It can be even included in investor relations because they are out there. They understand the business. They manage the relationship with different stakeholders. Yes. And the back office, this is where everything starts, because the back office and the cash management team, their main role is providing visibility. Without the visibility, no one can work. Not your front office, not your investor, nothing can work. What do I mean by visibility? The cash management team and the back office team, their main role is to tell you at the end of each day, this is how much cash you have in these accounts, in these countries, in these regions. This is their main job, is to give you visibility. Now, this might sound simple, but there is a lot of things that's happening for this team to be able to give you this visibility. So connections with banks, with systems, ERP systems, treasury management systems, cash pooling tools, all of these things. You know what the cash management team reminds me of? The pirates. So you know pirates, they used to share the treasure. So when they get a treasure, they don't distribute the cash amongst each other. What they do is they keep the treasure on the ship, and then they all know how much cash they have, and then when they need it, they use it. So that's basically what the cash management team does, right? They make sure that you, as a CFO, have a visibility. Okay, this is how much cash that we have. So they use all these tools, from cash pooling to treasury management system to ERP system, connectivity, API, host to host, all of the fancy words that you hear, to get you this visibility. So this is the cash management team. Okay. Then the front office team. Now, as I mentioned, their job is to go out. Now they know what you need, because the cash management give you the visibility. Yeah. Now you as a front office, you know that if you're going to have a new project, you're going to acquire a new company, you're going to do whatever, you're going to need this much cash. So you look at the cash that you have. If you see that you have enough cash, then you start using the cash. If you see that you don't have enough cash, then I need to find a way to get you the cash. This is the role of the front office. I will go and speak with the banks. I will issue a bond. I think we should do an IPO. I think we should, and then they act upon that. So these are the two different teams that you need. So first question you need to ask as a CFO, what do I need? Am I starting from scratch? I don't have a system. I don't have visibility. Then you need someone from a cash management perspective. I have the visibility, but I need someone who has the connections, who knows the banks, who knows this, who knows that, who can connect me to the right people to get the money. Then you need someone in the front office. If you need a mix between both and your business is not that big, then maybe you can have one person who can manage both. But this is, you need to be a very, very small business.
But can there, for example, can there be senior people in both positions?
Yeah. So usually what happens is you would have a group treasurer.
Yeah.
And then you would have two treasury managers.
One
front office
okay, gotcha.
And one back office. And they both reporting to the group treasurer. And then the treasury manager here and the treasury manager here can have senior analysts or analysts.
Okay, so it's like a controllership team and an FP&A, a commercial team, effectively.
So it really frustrates me when a company is hiring someone and they say, we need a treasury manager. Yeah, to do what? Is it cash management?
And this is the problem we have, because we don't know, because it doesn't obviously say, for example, you're splitting up front office, back office. And obviously when we speak to controllers or FP&A people, what sort of forward-looking, backward-looking? Because I think the thing I want to dig into here in a bit is that if you were a CFO, if you were hiring a treasury person, like what are you looking for in that person? Again, does it just depend on, as you've explained it quite very well there, about, do I need someone out meeting the banks, or do I need someone in the back office giving the visibility?
So there are a few questions that you need to answer first as a CFO before you decide, okay, I need to hire a treasurer or a treasury guy. First thing is, how big is the company? Are you an IPO or a listed company? Sorry. Or are you a private business? So how big the company is would give you an idea of how far you can go with the financing and funding and all of this stuff. Because it also gives you an idea of the possibilities of getting money. Because if you're a listed company, you can have shares, which would get
cash,
you. It would be easier for you to issue bonds, for example. Blah, blah. And it will also give an idea when you're hiring what relevant experience you need. Do you need someone who has experience in working in a listed company, or it's not necessary, because probably you will need to pay more for the guy who has experience for working in a listed company. So first thing is, how big is the company? Second question is how regional it is, or how geographical it is. So are you looking after just one country? Is your exposure only to UAE, or your exposure is to the GCC, or your exposure is to Africa, or your exposure is to Europe? Because it's a totally different discussion. If your exposure is just for UAE, then the treasury manager won't be finding a lot of issues trying to manage FX risk and repatriation risks, right? It's within the country. Same if it's just the GCC. It's not that risky. Same if it's only Europe. But when you start adding Africa and Latin America and more tricky countries, then you need someone who has experience there, where they will be able to tell you, okay, if you're going to invest in this country, you need to take care of the devaluation risk, because the money there, the value goes down, so your business will go down in value unless you do this, and that. If you put money there, you should know that it's going to be tricky to get the money out in case you need it. So that means when you have businesses this country, your liquidity will be very short, even though you have money. So you can have the assets, but you don't have the liquidity. Assets does not mean liquidity. And this is a fallacy that a lot of finance people fall in. They think, oh, we have the assets. We have lots of receivables, so we must be liquid. And there's a very tricky...
No cash at bank.
Yeah, there is a very tricky ratio that people rely on, which you shouldn't rely on, which is the liquidity ratio. I have receivables. I have inventory. Where? In Nigeria.
Get it out of Nigeria.
Good luck. Liquidity where?
Asset test ratio.
Yeah, right? That's one thing. So let's go back. So first thing, how big is the company? Where are you operating? Because this will give you an idea, okay, I need someone who has experience where. And then, are you cash rich or do you need financing? Because if you're cash rich and you don't need a lot of financing, then probably the treasurer that you need is someone who's good in investments, not in funding. You need someone to get your cash working for you, not someone to get you cash. So these are the main three questions that you need to ask yourself before going out and thinking, should I have a treasury guy, and what type of treasury guy, what type of experience should he or she has before I get. If you're starting from scratch, then definitely the first guy that you need is a cash management.
Back office.
Yeah. You need someone who doesn't necessarily have good relations with banks, but have a good understanding of connectivity and systems and cash treasury tools, like cash pooling and all of this stuff. So who would be able to get you all of the proper connectivity with the banks to your systems, and then boom, you will have visibility. Okay, this is how much cash I have. So this is where you start. I would, if you have zero treasury team, I would always advise this is where you start. Have a cash management guy. This cash management guy will give you the visibility. Then you decide, after you have the visibility, do I have a lot of cash? Do I have little cash? Then if I have a lot of cash, then I need someone who manages investments.
Yeah, okay.
If I'm low on cash and I need to do some M&As or I need to do projects, then I need someone who will be able to get me funding. So you need someone who has connections with them.
That's flown, by the way. Like, I think you've given an incredible overview on everything within Treasury, and thank you very much for that. I've actually learned quite a lot, which isn't a big thing, but I guess from our end, look, thank you so much for sharing everything. We're actually gonna close on a lighter note, ask you some questions so people get to know you a bit better. I know you weren't prepared for this. So,
no, this is not scripted. So yeah.
So look, if you weren't in Treasury, what career would you be, or what would you be?
Art designer.
Art designer.
Yeah, this is what I wanted actually, and then my father told me, no.
No.
This is what I wanted to be an architecture.
Egyptian blood, I guess, with the big pyramids and everything. I guess a lot of architecture down there.
Yeah, but I didn't want to draw. I was really good at math, so I was really bad at studying. But the only subject that I was really good at was math. So I had B's and C's all over, except for math. I got the A. Good. It was the only.
Good.
So I loved geometry and I was good at drawing. So I wanted to do like art and design. And
you love money too much. That's the problem.
I started. The question is not do you love money or you do not love money. The question is why do you love money?
Yeah.
We all love money.
Of course.
Period.
A kid.
We all love money, but the question is why do you love money? What makes you love money? Is it because you want to build a good future for your kids? For your wife, or is it because you want to feel like I'm better than everyone else? That's the question.
Yeah, agree, especially here. And then if you could give one bit of advice to a younger self, I know you still look very young anyway, but what would it be?
Two things. I should have started reading way earlier. Networking. I should have started that earlier.
You're catching up a lot for that now, I think. Therefore, look, that brings us to the end of the conversation. It's gone very quick. You've given us a lot of information. And I do think for all our listeners, Treasury, non-Treasury, it's going to have a lot of education to people in that space. So thank you very much. And yeah, so that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thanks for spending your time with us and being part of the Alchemy Uncensored community. And of course, a big thank you to Alan for supporting the season and helping us bring these conversations to life. We'll be back soon with more insights and more voices from across the region. So Kortam, shukran habibi.
Thank you, Habibi.
Thank you.
Thank you, bro.